There is a strange kind of strength that only appears when your knees are already touching the ground. Imagine a tree in the middle of a storm. The wind does not ask permission. It arrives like a verdict. The tree does not shout back. It does not harden into iron. It bends, and because it bends, it survives. Now imagine a person in a perfectly calm room who cannot bear the slightest disappointment, the smallest delay, the faintest critique. No storm comes, yet they crack anyway. What happened? How can a tree grow tougher by yielding, while a human grows fragile by gripping? We live in an age that worships a certain costume of power, the clenched jaw, the full calendar, the certainty in the voice, the victory posted in bright colors. Strength, we're told, is the ability to impose your will on the world. The harder you push, the more you deserve. The more control you hold, the safer you are. And if you feel weak, you must add more armor, more hustle, more proof. But look closely. The strongest people you've met likely weren't the loudest. The most unbreakable hearts weren't the most guarded. The most resilient minds weren't those that never fell, but those that learned how to fall without becoming rubble. Here's the paradox we're walking into together. To become twice as strong, you may have to do the opposite of what your instincts scream. You may have to soften instead of stiffen, open instead of fortify, wait instead of rush. You may have to step toward the very things you've been avoiding, not because you're reckless, but because avoidance is a slow kind of starvation. Strength is not a statue. It is not a permanent achievement you can place on a shelf. It is a relationship, a daily conversation with reality. Some days reality whispers. Some days it throws you into the ocean fully clothed. Strength is your ability to stay in that conversation without needing to control every sentence. So when I say for ways to become twice as strong, I don't mean for tricks to dominate your life. I mean for paths into a deeper kind of power, one that makes you more alive, not more armored. Power that doesn't depend on winning, but on becoming. A strength that can hold success without arrogance and hold failure without collapse. We'll move through for doorways, surrendering control, befriending fear, choosing love over armor, and living with time rather than against it. Each doorway looks like weakness from the outside. Each feels like danger at first, and yet each is a kind of internal weightlifting, the way the soul learns to carry what the ego cannot. Let's start with the first doorway, the one that offends almost everyone. At first glance, surrender. Not the surrender of giving up on life, the surrender of giving up the illusion that life is yours to command. Surrender is a word with bad branding. It sounds like waving a white flag, like letting the world step on your neck. But there is another surrender, older than the word itself. The surrender of a sailor who stops fighting the sea and starts reading the wind. The surrender of a dancer who lets the music lead. The surrender of breath when you finally exhale after holding it too long. Think of how much of your day is spent bracing. Bracing for someone to misunderstand you. Bracing for plans to fall apart. Bracing for the future to disappoint you. The mind becomes a control room filled with levers. If I say this, maybe they'll like me. If I plan every detail, maybe I won't get hurt. If I stay 10 steps ahead, maybe life won't surprise me. But life is surprise. It is change wearing different masks. Control is a strategy that works only in a world that never moves, and we do not live there. Here's the secret. The harder you cling, the more you exhaust yourself, you become strong. In the way a fist is strong, tight, rigid, and eventually cramped, surrender makes you strong in the way a river is strong, flexible, persistent, ungraspable. A river never argues with rocks. It doesn't take them personally. It doesn't shout, "This shouldn't be here." It simply moves. It goes around, over, through, and in time, the rocks change shape. Maybe you've seen this in someone you admire. A person who loses a job and, after grief, finds a direction they never would have chosen on purpose. A person who gets their heart broken and, through the ache, discovers the edges of their own soul. A person who fails publicly and, because nothing is left to protect, becomes honest for the first time. Their strength wasn't in preventing the fall. It was in how they met it. Surrender is not passivity. It's not lying on the floor and calling it wisdom. It is the choice to stop wasting energy on what cannot be controlled so that you can use that energy where it matters. It is saying, "I will act wholeheartedly, but I will not demand the outcome. That sentence alone can double your strength, because what breaks us is rarely the event. It is our war with the event, the refusal, the bargaining, the inner shouting of no, no, no. The mind tries to rewrite reality as if reality is a draft. But reality is ink. So surrender begins as a practice of truth. This is happening. This is what I feel. This is what I can do. And this is what I cannot. When you accept the shape of the moment, you stop bleeding against it. And suddenly you have hands free to respond, to improvise, to build something new. Ask yourself, what are you gripping right now that is gripping you back? The need to be right, the need to be admired, the need for everything to go according to plan? What would happen if, just for today, you loosened one finger? You won't become weaker. You'll become wider, and a wider person is harder to break. When you loosen that finger, something else often rushes in to fill the space. Fear. Fear loves vacuums. It is the mind's ancient smoke alarm, sometimes life-saving, often screaming at burnt toast. And the modern world gives it endless toast to burn. A headline, a silence in a text thread, a number on a screen, a memory at 2 a.m. We call it anxiety now, or stress, or overthinking. But underneath it is the same old animal, the body preparing for a danger it cannot name. Most of us were trained to treat fear like an enemy camped inside our chest. The goal became to eliminate it, hide it, outrun it. Be fearless, the posters say. As if fearlessness were a personality trait you could order online. But notice, no one has ever become brave by waiting for fear to vanish. Fear is not a wall between you and strength. It is the doorway if you want to become twice as strong. You don't need less fear. You need a new relationship with it. Picture a child learning to ride a bicycle. The fear of falling is real. Their hands sweat on the handlebars. Their belly feels like a small bird flapping. If they wait until the fear is gone, they will never ride. So what happens? They ride with fear. They wobble with fear. They fall with fear. And then this is the miracle: they get up. Each time they get up, fear stops being a prophecy and becomes a companion. The energy of fear turns into the energy of attention. The child learns balance not by erasing fear, but by listening to it. Your fear is trying to tell you something. Sometimes it says, "This matters." Sometimes it says, "You're stepping into the unknown." Sometimes it says, "You were hurt before, and I don't want it again." None of those messages are evil. They are simply unfinished sentences. When fear rises, ask it gently, almost like you'd ask a trembling friend, what are you protecting? What are you warning me about? What do you need me to notice? The strong person is not the one who feels nothing. That's not strength, that's numbness. The strong person feels the fear fully, lets it light up the nervous system, and then chooses. Anyway, fear says, "Don't go." Strength replies, "Thank you for your concern. I'm going." That quiet conversation is courage. And here's another paradox. The more you avoid fear, the bigger it grows. It becomes a shadow that follows you into every room. But when you walk toward it, it shrinks back into its true size, like a cave that looks monstrous from a distance and ordinary once you're inside. So what fear have you been feeding by running? The call you haven't made, the truth you haven't spoken, the dream you keep postponing because you're waiting to feel ready. Readiness is rare. Willingness is everything. Move 1 inch toward the thing that scares you, not to prove yourself, not to punish yourself, but to befriend the part of you that is alive enough to tremble. Because fear is a kind of fire. You can let it burn your house down, or you can learn to cook with it. If surrender loosens the fist, and befriending fear teaches you to walk through heat, then the next doorway is even more counterintuitive. Love, not the greeting card version, not the soft focus romance that asks nothing of you. I mean love as a force that strips away your armor and dares you to stand there anyway. Because most of us learned early that armor is safety. Be tough, don't need anyone, don't show the crack, keep your heart behind glass. We call it independence, or coolness, or maturity. But often it's just fear dressed in better clothes. We mistake the ability to hide our hurt for strength. Yet hiding is not carrying. It is postponing. You know this from your own life. The moments that made you feel most alive were not the ones where you were perfectly protected. They were the ones where you were fully in it when you told someone how you really felt. when you let yourself care, when you reach for meaning and couldn't guarantee it would reach back. Love always involves risk, and risk is where strength is forged. Think about a mother lifting a car off her child in a story you've heard 100 times. It sounds like myth until you remember that love changes physics. It recruits parts of you that the ego cannot access. The ego says, "What if I fail? What if I look foolish?" Love says, "This matters more than my image." And suddenly, you can do things you never could while staying safe. The heart is a muscle too, but unlike the biceps, it doesn't grow by resisting the world. It grows by meeting the world. Each time you offer kindness when it would be easier to retreat. Each time you forgive when pride wants to keep the wound open. Each time you stay present with someone else's pain instead of fixing it or fleeing. You are adding weight to the soul. You are becoming twice as strong. And it's not only about loving others. Some of the hardest strength we ever practice is the love turned inward. To sit with your own mess without contempt. To look at your past without rewriting it into a courtroom. To befriend the parts of yourself you tried to exile. Self-love is not indulgence. It is integration. It's the courage to say, "I won't abandon me." That single vow can end a lifetime of inner war. Armor makes you invincible to tenderness, yes, but it also makes you invincible to joy. When you live behind walls, even sunlight feels like a threat. Love is the willingness to be permeable again, to let life in, even if it hurts sometimes. Especially if it hurts sometimes. So ask yourself, where have you confused hardness with strength? Where are you withholding love because you don't want to be disappointed? Or because you don't trust your own worth? Or because you think caring makes you weak? What if the opposite is true? What if the strongest thing you can do right now is to open a door you've kept shut? Love is not the absence of fear. It is what you do while fear is talking. It is the brave, trembling act of showing up anyway. And when you open that door, you meet the simplest, most relentless teacher of all time. Time is the one opponent we can never defeat. And so we spend our days trying. We sprint. We stack tasks. Like bricks in a wall against mortality. We rush because somewhere inside, a small voice believes that speed is safety. If I move fast enough, maybe I can outrun loss, outrun uncertainty, outrun the fact that everything I love is temporary. But time is not a predator. It is a river, and the river does not care about your arguments. You can punch water all day, and you will only exhaust yourself. Strength comes when you stop fighting the current and learn how to swim with it. There is a kind of weakness that comes from impatience, from wanting the fruit before the tree has grown, from demanding clarity before the fog has lifted, from judging your life by a timeline that was never yours. Impatience makes you brittle. It makes you quit too early. Love, too cautiously, change too violently. It confuses urgency with importance. Think of anything that has ever truly shaped you. A skill, a friendship, a recovery, a sense of self. None of these arrived by lightning strike. They arrived by repetition, by seasons, by showing up on days that felt ordinary or even pointless. The world celebrates the breakthrough, but strength is built in the unphotographed hours. To live with time is to trust processes you cannot fully see. It is to understand that growth often feels like stagnation while it's happening. The bamboo plant, they say, spends years building roots you cannot see, until one day it seems to shoot into the sky overnight. But there was no overnight. There was preparation. So when you feel behind, when you feel late, when you feel as if your life is a page you should have finished by now, pause. Late compared to what? To whose clock? The universe does not run on your panic. The oak does not apologize for not becoming a pine. This doesn't mean you drift. It means you commit. Patiently, you choose a direction and walk it long enough for the path to appear beneath your feet. You keep trading the short burst for the long burn, not because it is glamorous, but because it is real. This is how athletes become great, how artists become sharp, how lovers become safe for each other, how a person becomes trustworthy to their own soul. Time also teaches you about endings. The brave do not pretend things last forever. They let chapters close. They grieve what leaves. They do not cling to a version of life that has already moved on. Strange as it sounds, letting things end is a form of strength, too. It keeps your hands open for what comes next. So the next time you feel yourself rushing, ask, am I moving with time or against it? And what strength might be waiting on the other side of slowing down? Slow down enough, and you begin to notice that these four doorways were never separate rooms. They are one house, one living architecture of becoming whole. Surrendering control is what lets you stop wasting strength on the uncontrollable. Befriending fear is what teaches you to walk into life instead of circling it. Choosing love over armor is what makes your strength human rather than mechanical. Living with time is what keeps your strength from burning out into ash. Together they form a single motion, like the inhale and exhale of a deeper breathing, release. Approach, open, endure. Maybe you're hearing all of this and thinking, but I still feel weak. Good, not good in the way pain is good, but good in the way truth is good. Weakness is not a verdict. It is a compass. It points to where your life is asking for attention. The places you feel least strong are often the places you are most alive, because life is happening there, friction and all. There's another paradox hidden here. You don't become twice as strong by becoming someone else. You become twice as strong by becoming more yourself. The self that can say, I can't control this, but I can meet it. The self that can feel fear without worshiping it. The self that can love without needing guarantees. The self that can wait without despairing. Strength, in this sense, is not an act of domination. It is an act of belonging. Belonging to your own experience. Belonging to reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. When you belong to life, you stop treating it like a battlefield and start treating it like a teacher. The lessons still hurt sometimes. The storms still come. But you're no longer surprised by the nature of weather. So let me offer you a small practice. Something simple enough to carry into tomorrow. The next time life tightens your chest, pause. Notice what doorway you're being invited toward. If you're spiraling in why is this happening, try surrender. Name what is and unclench around it. If your body is buzzing with dread, try befriending fear. Turn toward it and ask what it wants you to protect. If you feel the urge to shut down, to go cold, to disappear, try love. Open just one honest sentence. If you're rushing, hating the pace, feeling late to your own life, try time. Take one smaller step and let it be enough for today. These are not grand gestures. They are quiet revolutions. You don't need to transform your whole life this instant. That's the old control talking. Strength grows in increments you barely notice, like calluses, like roots, like dawn. And one day, you will look back and realize that what you once called weakness was the training ground. The disappointments were teaching surrender. The anxieties were teaching courage. The heartbreaks were teaching love. The delays were teaching patience. You were being shaped all along. So if you are in a storm now, bend like the tree. If you are in fear, carry it like fire. If you are in love, let it make you brave. If you are in time, swim with it. Become twice as strong, not by hardening into stone, but by learning the art of being water soft enough to move, steady enough to carve mountains, and alive enough to reflect the sky.